Boom, what's up? This is Chris Black coming from Eclipse Spotlight. This will be episode 3. Today is Sunday, Sunday, June 8th. We're 2 days away from the New Jersey Democratic Party primary election. Actually, New Jersey primary election for the Republicans and the Democrats both. That's June 10th. Uh, and I decided to make a podcast. I have a podcast about the New Jersey Democratic Party primary, not the Republicans. Republicans, we all know what they're going to do. This is Trump time. Everybody's going to go for Trump. I think his name is Chitterelli. He's a Republican guy. He's talking tough. He's doing that Trump speak here in New Jersey. And but we all know what that's all. Well, we know we see enough of Trump. I mean, what Republicans and conservatives, nationalists, right wing, what conservative, whatever you want to call them. We know what they're talking about, right? Law and order, structure, democracy, freedom, guns, the whole nine, right? Some of which I'm be pretty honest, I'm not that mad about, but Ralph Reed said back in the 90s, Ralph Reed used to be the head of the Christian Coalition in America. They were really heavy in politics during Ronald Reagan's time in the 80s, through George W. Bush's one term in the 90s. And they receded into the background, but then they resurfaced again with George W. Bush, with the big tent, Christian activists. Not they didn't call themselves the Christian Coalition, I think, again, but now they resurfaced again in 2024 with Trump, and they're there, right? And that Christian, that right wing, that conservative. I sometimes call them crazy Christians because they don't care what happens in the Middle East. They don't have to care what happens to the Palestinians. They kind of want Armageddon to happen because in order for Jesus Christ to return, the Bible says Armageddon must take place. So if you're a Christian and you're a believer, like these guys and ladies are, then it's got to go down in the Middle East in order for Christ to come back. And so they're not too mad about anything that goes on. And they're probably supporting Israel right now for their, I was going to say for all the wrong reasons, but they're really for the right reasons, which being the Christian right reasons, right? So, and that's because they want Jesus to come back. And to get Jesus to come back, you got to have Armageddon. You got to have Armageddon. You need some stuff to happen in the Middle East. You need the Israelites, the tribes of Israel to come together in the Middle East, in Israel again, in Jerusalem. And this is how it goes, right? And I say all that to say that despite all that history, right, the Democratic Party got spanked in 2024 in the presidential elections. I'm not saying they lost, they got spanked. I mean, when I say spanked, and I mean defeated. We can say Trump, right? They got Trump. However you want to describe a butt whooping, taking them to the shed. I'm trying not to curse, but then again, this is my podcast. I can curse if I want, right? Or use expletives. I use expletives like people use seasoning on their food. I use expletives in my language. I sprinkle them around to spice it up or to make a point. So if I'm cursing, it's because I'm really trying to make a point. Not that I can't use any proper English, right? But yeah. I mean, the Democrats got the asses whooped, right? That's really what it was. And some people were surprised by that, but I was not because it seemed to me that for a while now, the Democrats have been doing some crazy things. When I say crazy, I mean bad political things, tactically speaking, strategically speaking, policy wise, things that were unpopular, and they knew they were unpopular, but the powers that be within the Democratic Party, people will say it's their funding or the Hollywood backers, whatever you want to call them. That's what they wanted, and it didn't matter what regular people wanted. They were just going to go ahead and go along with that, right? Because that's where the big money was coming from. That's where all the direction was coming from. Uh, People call it progressive, but I don't know that I would call it progressive myself. I call them faux progressive, FAUX, faux meaning fake progressive. Like they put the progressive label on it. They put the liberal label on it, but it's not really that. It's really extreme social engineering, which is what they were doing. And for people who don't want to be socially engineered, that wasn't a good move. It wasn't a good policy move. And for Black American voters, I think it really wasn't a good social policy move because we were watching all the things that these Democrats were doing in their social engineering project. Yet, for what, 80, 90 years, They've been telling black people, wait, be patient, hold on, your time will come. We can't do it right now. But they did a lot of stuff right now, real fast, real quick, and in a hurry. And if you're a Black American, and I spell America with 3 Ks, like Ice Cube did or does, right, on his album, because of the the racial history in the past and the ongoing struggles and histories and what we're dealing with right now, you get in there going, wait a minute, why we gotta wait when everybody else is getting theirs right now, right? During slavery, we were told, serve master, be loyal and honest. Don't worry about the fact that you're not getting paid. Work in them fields, pick that cotton. You'll get your reward in the next life because God and baby Jesus is watching, right? And that's like the Democrats have been trying to do. Right? They bring out I don't want to call it the race card, but they bring out America's crazy bad record on racial history for to promote their full progressive causes. But then real live black people sitting here in front of them, black Americans born and raised, exported in this country, can't get no whatever. What you want our votes, right? But it's be quiet and vote. Never mind that the stuff we're doing is really not good for you or you people who look like you, right? And so they use the America's past indiscretions in history of discrimination and everything to push their full progressive agenda. But it really wasn't benefiting the people who they're throwing out there. Look at what you did to the black people. Now do this for us, right? And so that's why I talk about, or I mentioned that, yeah, the Democrats got their asses whooped in 2024, and Trump is back again in full effect, right? And you wonder what's been going on. But when you get your butt beat that bad in an election, traditionally speaking, here in America, according to American tradition, they called it getting taken to the woodshed, and got your ass whooped. You're supposed to go back out into the wilderness now because the mainstream majority of America has rejected you, your candidate, your platform, your proposal, everything. And so you as a political party are supposed to go out into the wilderness now and go find yourself. Notice how we get back to the Christian stuff, right? Even though, we get the full progressives and we get the what's the name? When I say go out into the wilderness, that's a reference to Jesus wandering in the wilderness, right? And being tempted by the devil, according to the Bible. And him arguing with the devil and being tempted and then coming out on top, right? And so the Democrats, much like middle-aged Jesus, not baby Jesus, are supposed to go out, are supposed to be out in the wilderness right now, rediscovering and redefining themselves, right? To come back and bounce back and to balance out this American democracy and U.S. political system, right? Almost like the Force, right? Star Wars and the Force. You got the Force, right? If we're gonna call Trump and them the evil empire and the Sith, then the Democrats would be the Jedi. Well, they're trying to, go out and find the next Luke, right? Because Yoda and them got their ass whooped like Palpatine did, right? And Yoda being Kamala Harris and the people behind her and Biden and the Democrats. But it goes back before her, man, because it seemed to me that people complain about Trump and the fascism, but the Democrats been doing a lot of stuff that's borderline fascistic and really not democratic or undemocratic, right? Like not holding a primary once Biden decided he wasn't going to run for re-election. All they had to do was hold an emergency primary, get all the Democrats together, and pick a candidate that everybody can get behind. But that's not what they did. They go, no, we like Kamala, and we're going to push Kamala, regardless of anything else. We're going to give them Kamala, despite the fact that Kamala was not a good candidate. When I say a good candidate, I mean popular with the base. The people, Democratic voters, didn't like her. I voted Democrat my whole life. I never liked Kamala Harris. I don't understand how she got to be vice president, because normally when you have a party, you pick a candidate. You have the president is the top. The vice president is the number two or second most popular within your party, even if you don't like each other. But you come together to get unity in the party. We hear for years, we've always heard that FDR may be the greatest Democrat of all, right? Because he brought America out of the Depression, won World War II, and set the United States up as the world power it is today, right? But everybody says he hated Harry Truman. Harry Truman was his vice president for all those, for those terms in office. And they say that he hated, and Harry Truman was from the Midwest, and he was from the Midwest party bosses, the Democratic system back then. And everybody said that FDR, Roosevelt, who was an aristocrat from New York, they said he hated Truman. Literally hated him, couldn't stand him, didn't want to be in the same room with him, get him out the country. I just don't like him, hated him. But as good politicians and as good Democrats back in the day, they made a deal. And the deal was to unite the party and to cement their power block. And the deal was, all right, FDR, you on top, but take our guy Truman. If you want our votes, you want our support from here out in the Midwest, the party bosses, these or whatever, the non-aristocrats, then you got to take this guy and put him in there, and then we'll all get behind you. And they cut a deal, and Roosevelt made the deal, and you got FDR, and you got Truman. And Truman, once FDR died, Truman picked up and kept on. And the Democrats were in control since then, right? After Truman, I think Ike got in, but that's because he was a general who won World War II, the top general in World War II, and Republican, and he came in, right? But that's just a little history. But the point being, American democracy is supposed to be founded on compromise, right? Majority rule, but that's informed by the minority situation or concern. But that's not what the Democrats have been doing. They've been going, and it's our thing. We want to do what we want to do, right? Regardless of what you guys like. And I'm taking this back to Hillary Clinton, the first time that Trump won, which was a surprise because everybody thought that Hillary was going to win, including Hillary and her people, right? Which is why she ran a bad campaign, right? But they thought she was going to win. And then she didn't. And people were surprised. And they're going, wow, how did she lose? It's incredible. What the heck? Right? She lost by slim margin. She won a popular vote, but lost the electoral college. And then they want to reform stuff. Oh, the popular vote should have won. No, that's not how the system is set up, and that's not how it works. I don't want to say you can't change it. You can change the rules. They do it in sports all the time, but not in the middle of the game, right? Which is what they wanted to do to suit themselves because Hillary ran such a bad campaign. And when I say she ran a bad campaign, it's because it went against the spirit of American democracy, which is compromise, right? To solidify your base, a la FDR and Harry Truman, right? She didn't do that. People forget. And, you have Bernie Sanders running around now, post 2024, and the Democrats want to listen to him. But, dude, back when Hillary was running, Bernie had rallies as big as Trump's. People, they want to ignore that because the Democratic power that be, they just didn't want Bernie Sanders. They said, nah, we don't want Bernie Sanders. No. That's not what we want. We don't want to do what Bernie wants to do. But there's Democrats I know, lifelong Democrats, elected officials, former elected officials, people come from Democratic families here in Jersey, where I'm from. And they were Bernie guys, and they weren't radicals. They weren't trying to defund the cops. They weren't doing any of those things, right? These were former elected officials, mayors, council people, firefighters, police officers, right? Public servants, taxpayers, homeowners. And they wanted Bernie Sanders because they had been disaffected by the Obama years, right? But the Democrats did not want to hear that, right? And so they just turned their back on Bernie. And they picked, who did they pick? Who did she run with? I don't even know who the person she ran. She ran as a vice president. But it should have been Hillary and Bernie. And that would have solidified the Democratic Party base, and Hillary would have been president. But they did not do that. They wanted to do whatever they wanted to do, and they just go, we riding the Obama surge and tide this all and whatever. And look what happened. You get Trump in there because they just underestimated the anti-Obama backlash that had been building up for 8 years. And it really, the day that Obama won, it was building up, right? And it wasn't all just racial, even though I'm not going to say there's not a large part of it, but it was his policy. That's some stuff to be desired. Personally, for me as a Black American, once again, with 3 Ks, right? If you were internationalist, you probably loved Obama stuff. But even now, here in 2024, we're seeing a backlash to that. It's Trump's presidency so far has been anti-internationalist. That's why he's doing all this stuff. That's why he's cracking down with ICE. That's why he's raising these tariffs, because Americans born and bred in America sitting there going, wait a minute, these internationals or newcomers or immigrants, migrants, whatever you want to call them, they're doing better than we are. And how is that happening? When we're America and America runs the world. We're the only superpower. We're Americans, right? There's a lot of, you know, I call white people blancos since they called us Negroes, which is really the bastardization of the Spanish word for black, which is negro, right? Negro, because the Spanish were involved in the slave trade, transatlantic slave trade. And so they had negros. But because you have a lot of ignorant Europeans who couldn't pronounce Spanish or speak Spanish, it went from negro to negro, right? And so they can call us Negroes. I can call them blancos because blanco is the Spanish word for white. So negros, blancos, negros, blancos, black and white, right? And gray in between. And it's just so on and so forth for all the other colors, right? Amarillo, azul, verde, right? That's how it goes. It's just colors, even though, linguistically speaking, it's just colors and names of words, right? But people make it into something different. But I want to back up and I want to get back to the Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. And they just didn't want Bernie. And they just, they didn't cut a deal. All they do was cut a deal with Bernie, make him your vice president. And then listen, FDR did not listen to Truman. Everybody said he hated the guy. But he had, oh, yeah. Go ahead, Harry. Say what you got to say. All right, now go back out of the room. We're going to do what we're going to do. Why couldn't Hillary have done that? That would have been good politics. That would have been smart American U.S. politics. But they didn't want to do that, right? And because they were trying to make a point. And this goes back to the social engineering that they were engaged in, right? And the idealism and the faux progressivism that had taken over the Democratic Party, which caused them to lose, but they wasn't really mad because, I talked to I live in Jersey and it's in Hudson. I hang out in Hudson County and Union County, right? So which is important because I'll explain that why, about how New Jersey's electoral map is broken down and how it breaks out. But it was a mayor from Essex County. And when Hillary lost, he was not mad, right? Matter of fact, immediately he started talking about the benefits of her Trump presidency and what it could mean for the Democratic Party, because it's going to bring the Democratic Party together and people who unify and the voters, and the anti-Trump stuff would just build up strength and it would just be good for the Democrats nationally and locally, right? Because they're solidified in their saying because Trump was going to be Trump, but they knew he was going to do. So I say that to say that there were people in the Democratic Party that really ain't mad about a Trump presidency. They weren't mad about it the first time, and they ain't mad about it coming around the second time because they know the Republicans are going to be Republicans. Trump's going to be Trump. He's going to do what he's going to do. And in a two-party system, when that one party is pissing people off, they turn to the other party, which would be the Democrats in this case, right? And so that's kind of what happened. Although I personally feel Trump was cruising to a second term before the pandemic happened and before George Floyd happened, before a lot of things happened that derailed his second term because it just happened and people responded to that, right? And so you got Biden. Biden got in. And even then, he only got in. He only won a Democratic primary because those Southern blacks down there in the South rescued him. He was losing. He was going down until the primaries happened in those Southern states, traditionally black Southern states, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, all those places. And the black vote saved Biden, lifted him back up, right? And so he's supposed to show his gratitude, what he did by giving us Juneteenth. Didn't give us criminal justice reform, didn't give us police training reform, didn't pass a national anti-lynching law, right? Even after Ahmaud Arbery got lynched in modern times, right? But you give us Juneteenth. Just like Hillary whipped out some barbecue sauce from a bag. I'm ready to go to the cookout. Here's my barbecue sauce. Right? Excuse me, it's my language, right? And that's what the Democrats have been doing to black people for a long time now, right? Giving us that barbecue sauce and that Juneteenth stuff. And what we really need was good leadership and reform and policies that would benefit Black American people born and bred in America. And that's not what the internationalist agenda was all about, right? That's not what the social engineering was all about, And And so we had 2024, right? When they got whooped because they got a hard dose of reality at the polls, when people voted against them. And I'll show you. I'll share my screen and show you, right? You hear me talking, but I'm going to share my screen and show you what the hard dose of reality is. And listen, it was crazy in New Jersey because I'll show you on a map, right? Harris, New Jersey is a blue state, right? And when I say blue state, New Jersey reliably votes Democratic, right? And then I'll share this screen first, right? And this is what am I sharing? Yeah, this is the presidential election results. So when I say that they got spanked, I want to really show people why and how they got spanked, right? 226 to 312, right? That's electoral college numbers. But look at all that red and look at that blue, right? Red is Republican, blue is Democrat, yeah. And look at that, man. That shows how they got spanked. 226 to 312, right? That's ridiculous in a national election. And that shows the country went for, right? 77 million votes to 72 million, right? 72 just because the coast cities, California and New York, are very populous, right? New York City, they have big populations, but everything else in the country, right, went for Trump. And there's a reason why that happens. And they say, oh, it's misogyny and you didn't want a woman candidate. No, they didn't want Kamala. Kamala was just a bad candidate. And the deal making they should have done to get Hillary in office, nobody wanted to do it. So she couldn't get in, right? And then also the other trend that's disturbing to me, but is happening and natural, and I'll show you why. Is the last three national elections, the majority of white women voted for Trump. Now, that's not racist, and that's not me making it up. When Hillary originally lost, I saw Sheila Oliver, former New Jersey Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, former State Assembly President Sheila Oliver, Speaker of the Assembly Sheila Oliver, from East Orange Sheila Oliver, and I asked her, because I was a reporter, right? And a new journalist. I'm still a journalist right now. And I asked her, I said, what happened? And she said, we did what we were supposed to do. It was the white women that didn't do what they were supposed to do. When she said we did what we were supposed to do, she meant black women. And it's the truth. But for Kamala Harris, all the black women voted for Kamala Harris. All the black women convinced themselves that Kamala was going to win when she wasn't, because the white women were not voting for Kamala, right? And a lot of Latino women didn't vote for Kamala. A lot of Indian women didn't vote for Kamala. A lot of people, women in general, not just women and specifically, but people in general, just didn't vote for Kamala. Right? A lot did, but a lot didn't. Right? And that 77 million to 75 seems like it's kind of close, but it really wasn't. Right? This is a butt whooping. Right? And that has been the trend. Right? White women voting against what used to be a solid Democratic party alliance, right? It used to be women and minorities, women and minorities, women and minorities. But as far as I'm personally concerned, Hillary's first loss and Trump's first victory, that was the line where women went. Well, I'm facing you guys, and this is my left hand, this is my right hand. Women went to the right with Trump, and minorities went this way to the left with the Democrats. And so that whole thing about women and minorities, being linked, being together, that is no longer the case, right? No longer the case in modern democratic U.S. politics. Women over here, and women and minorities over here. And I'll get to that in maybe a different podcast. It's a little deeper. But then I wanted to show you this too. The breakdown of New Jersey. Like I said, New Jersey is a solid blue state. Always votes Democrat. Always votes Democrat. But you look at those numbers for Kamala, right? She only got 2,200,000 votes. Trump got 1.96. That's almost 2 million votes. That means she really only won by about what, 300,000 votes. Trump got 46% of the New Jersey vote. That's crazy. 46% of the New Jersey vote. It's crazy, right? I can't say how crazy that is because New Jersey is a Democratic state, right? You give New Jersey a good candidate, they'll vote for the Democrats, right? There's a lot of strong independent streak in Jersey. The Republicans are strong, but they normally only win when there's a three-party, when there's like a three-party candidate. When some third party jumps in and siphons off those those votes that normally go to Democrats, and those really progressive independent voters go that way. That's when the Republican will slip in, a la Christie Whitman, a la Chris Christie, and the last two New Jersey Republican governors. But other than that, New Jersey goes Democrat all the time. Except last year in Kamala Harris, right? 6%. And she won, but 6 percentage points, that's not enough. And the other thing I wanted to show you, in terms of New Jersey politics, right? And which is where I've been introducing and talking about this, is the whole idea that I'm going to show you a New Jersey county map and how New Jersey breaks down. All right, we talk about Jersey politics. Is it up there? Did I get it? New Jersey, no, that's not it. Hold on. Let me get out of here. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Is that down, bro? Put that on there. Get that. Hold on. Now we should do this. Oh, that's a different page. That's why I'm going to drag it over. There it is. In New Jersey politics, right, during my lifetime, I don't want to say my woke lifetime, but since when I actually became a reporter and became an editor and now I'm a publisher, I learned how politics in Jersey works. I learned how politics in general, I learned how American politics works, right? Because New Jersey is a reflection of the rest of the country. It's like every other state is a reflection of the country, right? Because of the system, right? Just as a union, right? That we had the Civil War for, right? And but to win New Jersey in the recent past, I would say whatever, right? You need four counties. And those four counties happen to be the counties that have the largest cities in New Jersey, and when I say largest cities, that's the largest urban populations, right? And those counties are, I should have a pointer, are Essex County, Hudson County, Union County, and Passaic County. Essex is number 1, Hudson is number 2, Passaic County is number 3, and Union County is number 4. You win those 4 counties, which normally go Democrat. You win those 4 counties, then you generally win the entire state, because most, outside of those 4 counties, which are the urban areas, biggest urban areas, the biggest list, 4 largest cities, Newark is number 1, Jersey City is number 2, Patterson is number 3, and Elizabeth is number 4, right? Those are the 4 largest cities in New Jersey, right? With the largest population. Newark had the largest population. Jersey City had the 2nd largest population. Patterson is number 3 in size and population, I believe. And Elizabeth is number 4, right? And that's how it's always been, right? That's why we have in New Jersey, it's always been North Jersey, South Jersey. It breaks a line, and it breaks down by basically from Sussex up in the top of the nip down to Mercer. That used to be, I would say North Jersey. Maybe not Mercer. 100 and Somerset, Middlesex, maybe North Jersey. And then Mercer, Monmouth, Ocean, Burlington. Those are all Atlantic City, Atlantic Cape Cod, the shore, going all the way down, heading towards Philly, right? That's South Jersey, right? But in New Jersey politics, those big, I don't call it the big 4, but those 4 counties, right? Essex, Hudson, Passaic, and Union. You win those 4 counties, you win in statewide elections. That's you win, right? And right now we're doing historic times because we got demographic shifts happening, right? Those 4 cities that I talked about, they still have large minority populations, but they used to have a large Black minority populations, and that's not the case anymore. And it's been shifting. It's not the case in Newark. It's not the case in. It's still the case in Newark to a great extent because the South Ward, West Ward, some of the other places, you still got a pretty sizable Black population where Mayor Ras Barak is, right? And his base is in South Ward, right? But Jersey City, nope. Jersey City is not majority Black anymore. It's just Ward F, where the Black people are. The rest of the city, Mayor Steve Fulop says that Jersey City is the most diverse city in the country. I tend to believe him because if you go to Jersey City, there's some of everything from around the world in Jersey City. The only thing that's comparable to me to Jersey City that I've seen, I haven't been from San Francisco and other places, is Queens, New York, and that's like the most diverse borough in New York City. Is Queens because they got people from all around the world, different ethnicities, races, languages, all types of stuff, and that's what Jersey City is. Passaic County, majority Latino now, I would say. Patterson, I've got a video I'll show you. There's friction up there because Patterson is a strong bastion of the Black vote, but demographics are shifting. Up in Patterson, which is the biggest city in Passaic County, there's lots and lots of Latinos. There's lots of Arabs and Middle Eastern people up in there, Palestinians, right? Up there as well now, in addition to the Blancos or the white people who have been, I don't want to call it white flight, but they've been going mainly to the south, the south and the west, either down south towards Cherry Hill, down South Jersey, or going west into Pennsylvania for a long time now. I'm not going to say since the Newark riots, but really since the 60s when the Newark riots happened, and that was civil rights movement's time. And once again, demographic shifts, right? And then Union County, Elizabeth, to me, has been majority Latino for a long time. I used to cover Elizabeth when I was a reporter and an editor, and large Cuban population in Hudson County too. Union City, North Bergen, lots and lots of Cubans. Out in Union County and Elizabeth, lots and lots of Cubans. That was a surprise to me when I became a journalist and a working journalist here in Jersey. When I realized that outside of the island of Cuba and Miami in Florida, the largest concentration of ethnic Cubans and Cuban ex-nationals or Cuban people, whatever you want to call them, with it, is in Hudson and Union counties, specifically Union City, North Bergen in Hudson County, and in Union, Elizabeth, lots and lots of Cubans. That's why you get a Bob Menendez. That's why you can have a Senator Bob Menendez who is Cuban, right? From New Jersey, because Cubans were united in strong force here in the Garden State, right? And so I say all this to say that Democrats, when we're talking about going out to the woodshed or out into the wilderness to rediscover themselves and to come back with a new party direction and platform, hopefully more inclusive, hopefully more broad-based, hopefully to offset the butt whooping they just got last year in 2024, they've got to come up with some things to fix it, right? And so that is the backdrop of this current New Jersey gubernatorial election that we are engaged in, that's happening right now in the state of New Jersey, right? And New Jersey, for those that don't know about national politics, every 4 years we have a presidential election, and so you get a president. But during he gets 4 years in office. But during his 4-year term, we have what's called the midterm elections. So that means that before about a year and a half, 18, 19 months after, a year, 18 months, year and a half, about 18 or more months after anybody wins the presidency, Barack Obama did it, or Trump did it, or whoever, that party that won the election, you, depending on whatever, you kind of have 18 months to do your thing. But then we have the midterm elections, or we have the off-year elections. And right now, after that 2024 butt whooping, New Jersey is one of the states that's having an off-year statewide election, which is like a referendum on the Democratic Party, on the butt whooping they just took, and on the new direction that they faced, because they're out allegedly they're out here in the wilderness, wandering around, trying to figure out a new direction, more, to rebound from this disastrous 2024, right? Where they were just, where people rejected them, straight rejected their platform, their candidate, their party, their policies, their agenda. I mean, the Biden, it was, to me, it was kind of appropriate, and I don't want to say anything bad about the dead. It was kind of appropriate, historically and socially speaking, for Jimmy Carter to die at the end of the Biden presidency, because Biden was the worst Democratic president since Jimmy Carter. And that's not to say that Jimmy Carter wasn't a great human being, because he was. He's a peanut farmer. He was a good guy. But when he was president, it wasn't good for the U.S. I don't know if that was sabotage, the Iranian hostage crisis, oil shortages, cash lines. The economy was sucked. It all set the stage for Ronald Reagan to come in 1980 and be the savior and save America, make it into the city on the shining city on the hill, right? Which is what Reagan is credited with doing, right? Winning the Cold War, all this type of stuff. And so, but Carter proved he was a great human being for the stuff he did after he was president, right? All the great humanitarian things he did, right? He used all his money and his power and influence to help people. He's a good guy. Bad president, though, right? And bad leader. And then Ronald Reagan came in, a strong guy and talked tough. The same thing with Trump, right? Because I mean, as historic as Obama's presidency was, I put it down this way. Up until Obama became president, the president of the United States was known as the most powerful man in the world, right? But once Obama became president, that was not the case anymore, right? Apparent for whatever reason, and they say, "Oh, it was racism, this and this." I don't know. I think he had, he just did not flex the way that he could have flexed or should have flexed, or let's keep it 100, the way that a lot of real progressives, the people who voted him into office after George W. Bush, fucked up the whole world, right? They wanted reform and progression. They said, what's more progressive and reformative than putting a black dude in office, allegedly black dude, African American. And he got him in there, and it was the same old. And people was like, "What the hell is this?" Right? And people were upset. So much so upset to the point where people forget this, or they don't want to remember. But Bill Clinton had to go to the Democratic convention where all those upset Democrats, those upset progressives were, people that were upset with Obama for not doing what they wanted him to do, for not going as far and being as far sweeping, for not using the presidential powers the way that Trump is using those powers now. Obama could have done all of that. And he actually had a mandate, because like I said, W. Bush fucked the entire world up. The entire world wanted something different and new. And that's not what Obama gave us, right? In my opinion. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, that's how he did. But the stuff that Trump is doing now, Obama could have done that. He didn't close Guantanamo Bay. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. I don't know what their thinking was, but he just didn't do it. And once again, you got the most powerful position in the world, but you just won't use the power. And then that's what they're scared of with Trump, because he's got the most powerful position and he's using the power that's there to be used. I mean, and what is power there to be used for? But to be used, yes? I don't know, right? But and once again, I say all that to say that the Democrats got to come up with some kind of new plan, new platform, new approach to win back voters, if they can win them back, which I don't think they can, because I don't think white women are coming back. I think white women have gone conservative, they're going with Trump, and that's because I'll get into that in another podcast too. That's because they went with their husbands and their sons. And I say that because after Hillary lost, I went to a Democratic thing and I talked to this white woman. I'm saying, damn, white women went for this. And she said, my sister is married to a white man, a white kid. And she said, my sister would do whatever her husband says do. And so they chalked it up. She chalked it up to her sister just voting for what the husband told her to do, right? Like she's just a mindless drone. She's controlled by her husband, right? And she was a married white woman, progressive, right? And in her right mind, she seemed like, I spoke to her. She didn't seem crazy. But that's a mini, in my opinion, that is what really happened. It happened. It wasn't as derogatory as she described it, but that's what it was, right? They sided with their husbands and their sons, and I say husbands and their sons, their daughters too. But that's what I believe the majority of white women voters have done, right? And and we saw that reflected in this last election, where after Kamala did not win, what's the first thing the Democrats do? And even leading up to it, they were going, "Why don't the black men like? Why don't the black men support Kamala? Why don't the black men?" They even sent Obama out to chastise black men. You Negroes need to go right, vote for Kamala to make black men make us the bad guy, right? Because a lot of black dudes was not feeling Kamala. I did not feel Kamala. I'm black, I think, right? Name is black. And they wanted to force them. You better go and vote. Once again, that's very undemocratic. You talk about fascism, you talk about authoritarianism. Are you trying to make people vote the way that you want them to vote, as opposed to the way they want to vote? And that's not cool. That's not democracy. Even though American democracy is representative democracy, it's not really true democracy like we hear about from the Greeks or whatever. But even the Greeks didn't do that true democracy stuff when you get down to it, right? Is that, in America, we vote for a representative. We vote for a person to go represent us in those places. We don't vote for the president. We vote for these people, these electors, to go Democratic, Republican, who are committed to their candidate, Democrat, Republican, or whoever else, to go and elect that person on our behalf. And then that person in office is called to represent us in that office and do things for us, for the people that elected him, for his constituents or constituency. But the Democrats, once again, the crazy stuff they was doing things that weren't really, in my opinion, and many others too, it seems, the best interests of their constituents, especially Black American voters, Black American male voters especially, right? Because if white men are complaining about, their lack of power, how much power can a black man have? A white man ain't got no power. If the male species has been on a whatever, then right? And I'm not saying that that's the case, but what I'm saying is there were policies that were being pursued, and it made black people who were paying attention go, "What's going on? What are you really doing?" Right? AAPI gets passed. Black Americans can't get a crime bill passed, can't get a criminal justice reform passed, can't get an anti-lynching law passed. But all of a sudden, Asian American Pacific Islanders, they get protected status quick, fast, in a hurry. And nobody telling them to wait. We gotta wait and then things will go out. No, right? What? They've been attacked, people going from the pandemic, pass a law now. And that law got passed. And then you got, so much support for the migrants, and I'm all for helping people in need. America is a sanctuary country to protect freedom of speech and whatever else. Even though the reality in this country means well, nobody protected black people for hundreds of years. Let's keep it real, right? But and that's what became terribly apparent. They're bending over backwards for these migrants and these other people, but people who were born, especially you go to Chicago, listen to people in Chicago, black people in Chicago, they going, what the fuck? Right? Been here their whole lives. And they ain't never getting no deals like some of these migrants was getting. In New York City, they wasn't getting some of these things that these migrants were getting. They make you go, wait a minute. I've been here my whole life. I'm voted Democrat my whole life. Why are these people getting better treatment than I'm getting? And that's because the democratic policies have been hijacked by these social engineers, in my opinion. And so, which led to 2024. And so now we're in post 2024. And so I say all this because I want to give a segue into the New Jersey gubernatorial election. New Jersey and a couple other states are having this off-year Democratic primary and statewide election. And so it's supposed to be a barometer. And for those who know what a barometer is like a measure of weather, right? You look at the barometer, what's going to happen with the weather? A barometer. So the election is going to be a barometer of how voters feel about the Democrats and about the Democratic Party after that 2024 ass whooping, right? And what are the Democrats going to do in response to that? Are they going to redo their policies? Are they going to retool? Are they going to do this, right? And so we'll see. And they have candidates running in this New Jersey Democratic Party primary, in this New Jersey gubernatorial election, and the primary is June 10th. So that's 2 days away. Today's the 8th. It's on Tuesday, June 10th, right? And I want to talk about that a little more, but I just wanted to give a segue into the national backdrop of this very local New Jersey election. Shout out to Bashir Akinyele. He used to have a radio show with I think it was Rutgers North. Was it Rutgers North? Or NGIT? I'm not sure. He had a radio show, and it was called "All Politics Are Local." And that really is a maxim. I mean, a maxim, when I say maxim, M-A-X-I-M, I'm not talking about the magazine. I'm saying a maxim is like a common thing, right? In America. So all politics are local is like a common saying, a common thing in American politics, not just Democrats or Republican or whatever, independent or progressive, whatever you can call it. It's just all politics are local, which means that people vote their self-interest. And if I'm locally speaking, if I'm catching hell locally, I am going to express how I feel about catching hell locally through my vote in these other elections, right? So all politics are local, whether it be local election right there in my town, in my county, in my state, or national. And so I do believe that is the case, that all politics really are local. And so we're going to see. And like I said, today is June 8th. And the New Jersey Democratic Party primary or primary election is Tuesday, June 10th. And then after that, November, is going to be a statewide gubernatorial election of, Democrats, Republicans, and whoever else jumps in New Jersey. And that's supposed to be seen as a barometer and bellwether or a sign of what the national mood is, or how the Democratic Party is going to respond to that ass kicking last year, because they got their ass kicked, right? Let's keep it 100%. And the Democrats will do something different, they'll lose even more. Because like I said, man, the demographics in New Jersey are shifting. And the other thing is, we talk about blacks and browns, but when we're talking about blacks and browns, that breaks down to lots of other groups. And those browns, once again, that's why I was saying in Spanish, negros, blancos, amarillos, yellows, right? And, it's offensive to call Asian people yellows, but they're here, they're voting, they're American, they're in New Jersey, right? And their voice is being heard, right? Like I said, North Jersey, South Jersey, all of a sudden you have Central Jersey now. Why is that? Because you have Edison, New Jersey. Who's in Edison, New Jersey? Large Indian American, Southeast Asian population, right? Up there, Fort Lee, Lodi, up in North Jersey, Bergen County. Lots and lots of Asian people, voters, right? And when you look at that New Jersey vote election map and that New Jersey votes and how it broke down, a lot of these enclaves, enclave, ENCLAVE, is a group or setting of the community of people. Breaks down over language. Like I said, the Cubans and Cuban Americans in Hudson County and UNC North Bergen, and also in Essex and Union County and Elizabeth. Enclaves, right? Jersey City, enclaves everywhere. Filipinos on this part of the city, Indians up in this part of the city, up in the Heights. Ward F, you have the black African Americans, black people, right? And then everything in between in the other parts of the city, right? Not to mention, the Blancos, right? Who are still there, right? And that's the other backdrop. The Blancos don't never go to. A lot of them leave, but a lot of them stay too, and so they're always there, right? So, but that's just America's a numbers game. So it's not me being racial, not being racist. It's not whatever. But when we talk about going back to the Constitution and compromise in the Constitution, the reason why the United States Constitution says that a black person, and those were slaves at the time, because there was a lot of slaves in those southern slave states that they were trying to bring into this American thing, the compromise. And up in the North, they didn't have as many people or slaves as people. Just the numbers was short. The North was going, wait a minute, we can't put it all based off of population because y'all got more down there. That means y'all be running the show, and we don't want that. And so to break it down and to be able, they cut a deal. They made a compromise, and it's called the 3/5 compromise. That's why in the United States Constitution, United States of America Constitution, it says that a black person is 3/5 of a person. You're not a whole person. If you're black and you're American, the Constitution says you're not a whole person. You're not 100%. You're not 5/5 of a person. You're just 3/5 of a person. But that's because America has been. I don't know if it's always will be that case, but right now it's still the case. It's a numbers game, right? Numbers, population, it equals influence and power, allegedly, right? That's why I talk about the 1%. The 1% is a small number, but the mass of people are down here, right? And it's numbers. And if those numbers, that's why people say, oh, they always rise up. But the reason why they don't rise up is because the 1% got enough money to pay people, cops, feds, whoever else, a lot of levels to put in place to keep these people down, which we see during slavery with the overseers and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, but that's the reason why. So, all this democracy we talk about and all this fairness, and this is who this, I don't want to call, fuck it. This new notion of meritocracy, right? That Trump and the Republicans are pushing. Crazy, because it's never really been that way. It's a strictly numbers game, right? And when the numbers start shifting, the demographics start shifting, people start moving out, getting spread apart, power bases, power structures, concentrations of black people start being diffused. And let's keep it real, knocking down the projects in Newark, Irvington and other places, that was a good thing. But you dispersed those black people, those black citizens, those black voters. They're not concentrated in those areas anymore. They've been spread out, right? Two places like Edison, two places like South Jersey, and wherever else where they weren't before. And so you decrease the power of that base and the influence of that base in local elections in those places, right? So Newark, the black vote in Newark ain't as strong as it was about 10, 15 years ago. The black vote in Jersey City, Hudson County, ain't as strong as what it was, 10, 15 years ago. The black vote in Patterson, up in Passaic County, ain't as strong as what it was before, which is why you have council meetings where the black council members accusing the Latino, the Spanish speaking council president and Spanish of doing policies as usual, right? Not accusing, but just noting this is how it's done in America. And then they having fights up there between the blacks and the Latinos. That means they had no unity up there in Passaic County, right? And then in Union County, where blacks have been a minority among the minorities for a minute, if you ask me. And so, but there are not as many black Americans in Elizabeth and Union County as there used to be. I mean, uh, Roselle, other places, but still, Union County has never been majority black like that anyway, right? Hillside, but yes, these demographics are shifting, right? And the sanctuary city stuff, once again, a faux progressive idea. It sounds good, it looks good on paper, but the reality was it really undercut the Black American voting base and the Black American voting power here in America. And so what's going to happen? And Democrats did that. And they're not dumb. They do dumb stuff. But to me, when people I know to be smart start saying and doing dumb things, there's a reason behind that. And that is, once again, the agenda that they were pursuing for these years, which I think has been bad policy for a minute now. But they've been on the internationalist agenda, and they came back to haunt them. And here we are now in 2025. People talk about Project 2025. That's really just the anti-internationalist agenda coming back, right? And then, like I said, Clinton, I think it's the first black president, and I liked his presidency. The Lewinsky stuff was funny to me, even though it was serious to other people. Nothing compared to what Diddy is going through, right? Or R. Kelly, or Epstein, right? And yes, but he did NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, which people act like they don't remember. And what the North American Free Trade Agreement did is what it said: free trade within North America. That allowed Mexican trucks to go from Mexico up through America, through to Canada, for like low tariffs and for no trade fees. And so you open up the borders. And that was an internationalist thing to promote trade and whatever back during the Clinton years, back in the 90s. But now here we are in 2025, and Trump raising tariffs going, hold on a second. All this commerce, these people moving back and forth, what's really going on, right? So because when you open the borders for positive reasons, the negative reasons creep in, which is Mexican cartels, drug use, fentanyl, drugs, fentanyl, terrorists, all types of stuff, right? So Yeah, people like to think that stuff is disconnected, but it really is all connected. And so I'm going to talk about that in my next podcast. So this was Eclipse Spotlight number 3, I guess, right? And it's about politics. Number 4 is going to be about the New Jersey gubernatorial election and who I'm personally going to be voting for, and why I think the Democratic Party that's been taken to the woodshed should be out in the wilderness, redefining itself and retooling to come back for these midterm elections, and in 4 years to challenge and offset this tide that swept them away in 2024. I'm gonna tell you what I think that they should be doing. All right, so that's what's up. And once again, it's Eclipse TV on YouTube. It's Chris Black on Instagram. Check me out, follow me. Chris Black on Facebook. And www.eclipse.biz. Eclipse.biz is my blog and website, so you can go check out the stories related to these podcasts. All right, and so we'll be back. Right? Like my shirt, mother. I don't know. She saying my shirt. Right? It's peace in America, but there ain't no peace in America right now, right? All right, so I'll see you later. Peace out.